Before I could even breathe, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced down. New email, the subject line, offer letter, Marwood Partners. My hands started shaking. I opened it under the desk, while my screen still glowed blank. Base salary, $460,000. Equity, 15%. Title, Head of Client Development, full autonomy. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so damn perfect. Trina had just nuked my entire year's work thinking it was a joke. Meanwhile, a team of former clients had been watching behind the scenes, waiting for the right moment to pull me. That moment didn't just sting, it cracked everything wide open. Quick note, before we get into how it all started, tell me, what city or country are you listening from right now? Because that wasn't just some bad day at work. That was the tipping point. The culmination of 17 months spent in a job nobody wanted, doing work nobody respected, until they couldn't live without it. You don't get to that kind of moment overnight. It started a year and a half earlier. I was 29, living in Indianapolis, and desperate to prove I could do more than just survive corporate life. And it all began with a role everyone said was a waste of time. I walked into South Cross Logistics on my first day wearing a button-down shirt that didn't quite fit and shoes I'd bought on clearance the night before. The office was all white walls, gray cubicles, and the smell of stale coffee. No one looked up when I came in. Trina met me at the door with a printed badge and zero expression. Client Success Coordinator, she said, holding the badge between two fingers like it might bite. It's a made-up title, just so you know. We walked past rows of people tapping away at keyboards. No one spoke. She didn't bother with small talk, just led me to a half desk wedged between a filing cabinet and the printer. This is you. Don't expect much help. The last guy ghosted without finishing offboarding. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Real value is in systems, not smiles." Remember that I nodded like I agreed. I didn't. But I wasn't dumb enough to argue on day one. The first week was chaos. No one told me what software we used. My logins didn't work. I couldn't even find the client list. I ended up digging through the CRM and digging harder through a forgotten email archive the last guy left behind. Buried in there were hundreds of client messages, most of them ignored or answered with one-liners that might as well have said, "Don't care." That's when it hit me. The reason this job was unfixable wasn't because clients were tough. It was because no one treated them like people. So I tried something basic. I listened. When Matt Gerber from Ironbridge mentioned his kid had just made varsity, I jotted it down. 2 weeks later, I brought it up on a follow-up call. "Hey, how's your son doing? Still crushing it on the field?" The man actually paused like he thought I was joking. "You remembered that?" he asked. I kept doing it. Birthdays, anniversaries. One guy casually mentioned he was remodeling his kitchen. I followed up a month later and asked how the cabinets turned out. He told me he'd never had anyone at a logistics company follow up on anything not tied to an invoice. All I was doing was paying attention and following through. No gifts, no stunts, just basic human decency. I tracked everything, logged every call, marked every conversation. If someone told me their dog died, I made sure not to ask about the dog the next time we talked. That should be obvious, but around here, it wasn't. Trina saw me taking longer on calls and started hovering. "You're not a guidance counselor," she said. "Keep it transactional." I nodded and went right back to asking people how their week was going. She thought I was wasting time, but the numbers told a different story. Over the next couple of months, I started seeing patterns. Clients who normally bailed after 1 or 2 shipments started sticking around. The churn rate dipped, response times improved. But not because we got faster. It was because people actually wanted to talk to us. And once they trusted me, they started giving me the real problems. The late shipments, the billing errors, the stuff they used to just suffer through in silence until they eventually walked. One Friday, I stayed late answering a call from a guy in Utah who was thinking of pulling his account. We ended up talking for 45 minutes about the screw-ups on his last few deliveries. I didn't promise him the moon. I just owned the issues, wrote everything down, and told him I'd follow up personally. He didn't cancel. That's when I knew this wasn't fluff. This was the glue holding everything together. They just didn't see it yet. By the end of my 3rd month, the same people who used to ignore my emails were calling me directly. I wasn't even in sales, but somehow clients were spending more. And Trina? She still thought I was wasting everyone's time. By month 4, the shift was obvious. Clients weren't just replying to my emails anymore. They were bypassing the company line completely. They'd call my direct number, even after hours, just to check something real quick. And honestly, I didn't mind. Julie Tadden from Northwell Foods was the first big one. She called me about a damaged shipment, then ended up telling me about her store's 5-year anniversary. I jotted it down like I always did. 2 months later, I called her a few days before the date and said, "Congrats on 5 years. You still doing that sale with the free cupcakes?" She actually laughed. "You remembered that?" "No one forgets cupcakes," I told her. After that, she didn't call the main line again. Every time she needed something, it came through me. Not a ticket, not the portal, me. And it wasn't just her. I built a system on my end, not some complicated CRM overhaul, just clean, organized notes. If someone mentioned their anniversary, I flagged it. If their kid broke an arm, I followed up to see how they were healing. It wasn't fake. I actually gave a damn. That's what made it work. Trina saw me taking 30-minute calls and started lurking again. One morning, she leaned on my cubicle wall and said, "You're not a therapist." "Didn't realize empathy was against policy," I said, still typing. She didn't like that, just scoffed and walked off. What she didn't know was that while she was counting closed tickets, I was tracking something better: retention, upsells, contract renewals. I had a spreadsheet that tied every piece of client feedback to revenue impact. Matt Gerber renewed for another year with a 5% bump. Julie doubled her average order size. In 3 quarters, client churn dropped by 41%. I didn't celebrate it out loud. I just kept logging numbers, tying real results to fluff work no one else cared about. Trina called a team meeting one afternoon to remind us that soft skills are not deliverables. I stared at my screen while she droned on about process improvements. 2 rows behind me, I heard someone mutter, "Tell that to Northwell." I pretended not to hear, but I filed it away. By the end of the fiscal year, I had the numbers that mattered: 193,000 in net new revenue that could be directly tied to relationship notes. I didn't make guesses. I had names, dates, dollar amounts. I printed it, bound it, slid it onto Trina's desk with a sticky note. Q4 analysis requested by no one, but useful anyway. She didn't respond. Didn't even say thanks. But I knew she saw it. I watched her flip through it from across the floor. 2 days later, she scheduled a one-on-one. I expected a tear down. Instead, she asked a single question. "How are you getting them to stay?" I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I make them feel like they matter." She didn't write it down, didn't say anything, just nodded and ended the meeting early. That's when I knew she didn't get it, and never would. The clients weren't loyal to South Cross. They were loyal to the person who actually treated them like people. One night, I stayed late to catch up on follow-ups. It was snowing outside. The office was dead quiet. I was finishing up a call with Greg from Printworks. His driver had backed into a mailbox and the client was pissed. I calmed him down, promised we'd cover damages, then asked if his daughter ended up getting into Clemson like she'd hoped. He exhaled like I just lifted a truck off his chest. "Yeah, early acceptance. Thanks for remembering, no problem." Congrats, man. After we hung up, I leaned back in my chair and looked around the empty office. Half the lights were off. Trina's door was shut, blinds pulled. I thought about that first day when she told me my job was made up. A temp gig dressed up in corporate clothes. That night, I knew I'd built something real, quietly, on my own terms. And the craziest part, I wasn't even close to done. The next week, we had our annual review meeting, full company Zoom call, CEO, department heads, the whole damn org. Trina sat 2 chairs down from me, stiff as plywood, not a word all morning. Then Marty Beringer, our CEO, pulled up the retention dashboard and said it out loud. I want to highlight the client success group. Retention's up, churn's down. Frankly, this is a model for client stability. Everyone turned toward our row. Some clapped. Trina didn't blink. Her jaw tensed like she was chewing nails. After the meeting, I packed up my laptop and headed for the break room to grab a soda. Didn't even make it past the elevator before I felt her behind me. "Whatever show you're running," she said, low and sharp, "it ends now." I turned around. "Not sure what you mean." "You're not special. You're just louder than the rest. Let's see what you've actually done." She handed me a file folder. Inside was a task list labeled Client Audit, Full Detail Request. She wanted a year-long breakdown of every interaction I'd had with every client. Names, dates, call lengths, topics discussed, impact to business, attached revenue, renewal outcomes, escalation notes, everything. It was clearly punishment. "Due in 2 weeks," she added, then walked off without another word. It was busy work. She thought it would slow me down, bury me in paper until I stopped standing out. But I didn't blink. I cleared my schedule, canceled every non-essential call, and went to work. I pulled every email thread, every voicemail transcript, every CRM note I'd logged since the day I got there, built a custom tracker from scratch, 51 pages, clean, organized, time-stamped. I didn't just tell a story, I mapped it, client by client, dollar by dollar. I showed how a 10-minute call about a vendor screw-up led to a 6-month renewal, how remembering a customer's dog's name helped us recover a stalled account, how every so-called inefficiency turned into money on the table. When I dropped the report on her desk, she didn't say a thing, just stared at it. "You wanted a breakdown," I said. "There it is." I walked out, head up, thought for a minute that maybe she'd finally get it. Maybe now she'd understand what I'd built. Instead, a week later, I got a calendar invite, mandatory team meeting, communication protocol review, whole department, no details, just a time, a room, and Trina's name on the invite. That's when I knew she wasn't planning to change. She was planning to strike. On the day of the meeting, I walked in and saw the big screen already on. My stomach dropped. She'd pulled up my audit. It was on the first slide. Client impact overview, personalization notes. I sat down. Everyone else filed in, quiet, unsure what we were about to see. Trina stood at the front like she was about to teach a class. "We're going to review some recent inefficiencies," she said, flipping to the next slide. I watched her scroll through my work like it was garbage. She cherry-picked lines out of context, birthday reminders, notes about clients' vacations, even one I wrote about a kid's science fair. "This," she said, clicking the laser pointer, "is not logistics. It's emotional clutter. We are not here to be pen pals. We are here to solve problems, close tickets, and move freight." I clenched my fists under the table. My jaw locked so hard it hurt. She kept going, page after page, stripping every bit of value out of the work I'd done, trying to make me look like some desperate try-hard chasing compliments instead of results. And the team? Silent. No one looked at me. No one looked at her. Then she stopped on the final page, the master sheet, the one with all the revenue tied to every conversation. "This kind of emotional micromanagement is inefficient," she said, and with zero hesitation, she hit delete. Just like that. Gone. The room went dead quiet. She smiled, turned back to us, and said, "We're going back to professionalism. Starting today." She thought she'd erased a nuisance. She had no clue she'd just destroyed the only bridge keeping the company upright. She stood there like a damn professor, hands clasped behind her back, acting like she was doing us a favor. "This is what we call bloated communication," Trina said, as she flipped to the third slide. My notes. Talking about football games and birthday parties isn't logistics. This is textbook inefficiency. I sat frozen at the end of the table, watching her rip my work apart line by line. My chest was on fire. Every face in that room was either looking down or staring blankly at the screen, trying not to get caught reacting. She clicked to the next entry. My note about Greg's daughter getting into Clemson. "Clients are not your friends," she said, like she was reading from a damn textbook. "We are not in the business of coddling." Someone cleared their throat near the back, probably trying not to choke on the tension. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought someone might hear it. I looked around. 20 people. A few of them had once thanked me privately for keeping their clients from canceling. Now, not one made eye contact. Trina kept going. A note about Julie Tadden's store anniversary. One about a client whose dog passed. She read it out loud and actually smirked. "This is where we draw the line," she said. "We're not here to manage people's emotions. We're here to manage freight." I could feel sweat collecting under my collar. I knew exactly where she was headed. She hadn't gotten to the final tab yet, the master sheet, the one where everything, every contract, every renewal, every uptick in spend was tied to a personal touch point. And then she got there. The title filled the screen. Client Relationship Revenue Attribution. Full year. She stared at it for a second, let the silence drag, then turned back toward us. "This," she said, "is garbage." Then she clicked delete. 1 second. That's all it took. A year's worth of client growth, gone with a single click. "We're going back to professionalism starting today," she said, calm as ever. "Standard scripts, timed responses, no more emotional clutter. Any questions?" My hands were shaking under the table. I gripped the edge to steady myself. I wanted to scream, wanted to flip the conference table and ask everyone what the hell they thought they were doing, sitting there watching her torch the only system that had actually worked. But I didn't say a word. No one did. That's what gutted me the most. Not even the delete button, not even the smug look on her face. It was the silence, the way my coworkers just took it. I stood up, slow and steady, and walked out of the room. Didn't say excuse me, didn't explain, just left. Back at my desk, I stared at my monitor like it might offer me something, anything to fix what just happened, but it was blank, just like the screen Trina had wiped clean. My phone buzzed. I didn't even look at it. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, fists tight, head down. That file wasn't just numbers and notes. It was proof. Proof that people want to be treated like humans, not line items. Proof that the clients weren't staying because of our software or shipping accuracy. They were staying because someone actually gave a damn. And Trina had just erased it in front of the entire team like it meant nothing. She had no idea what she'd just done. She thought she'd embarrassed me, shut me up, put me back in line. But all she really did was burn the only bridge keeping this whole company from falling into the damn river. My screen was still blank when I felt the buzz again. Short, sharp, steady. I checked my phone, half expecting some corporate blast from HR Marwood Partners. That name hit like a switch flipping in my chest. I stepped into the hallway and answered. "Hey," a voice said, cool and direct. "You probably remember us, Bryant, Craig, and Lamont. We used to run ops at Ridgeline before the merger." Yeah, I remembered. They were sharp. Left South Cross 6 months ago after the firm's biggest account started bleeding. "We've been watching," he said. "We know exactly what you've been building over there." I didn't speak. Just let him talk. "We want you to build our client division. From scratch. Your way. No red tape, no scripts, no Trinas." My throat went dry. "Base salary's $460, plus equity, full lead, autonomy, you report directly to us." I leaned against the hallway wall, one hand on my head. My heart was thudding so hard I thought I might throw up. "They're not loyal to South Cross," he added. "They're loyal to you. You already know that I looked down the hallway. That stupid conference room door was still cracked open. I could hear Trina's voice going on about policy changes, tone standards, escalation charts. "We're not asking for data," he said. "Just show up and keep being the guy they trust." My pulse steadied. I didn't need time to think. I just nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Yeah," I said. "Let's do it." I ended the call and just stood there for a second, breathing, processing. Then I straightened my shirt, walked back into the meeting room, and took my seat like nothing happened. Trina was mid-slide, yapping about how standardization creates consistency. She noticed me and paused. "Any questions?" she asked. I looked around the room at every person who watched her gut me and stayed quiet. Then I stood up. "Yeah," I said, loud and clear. "I'm out." The room froze. She stared at me like she didn't understand the words. "I quit," I said. "Effective right now." She scoffed. "You're making a mistake. You don't walk out of a career over a disagreement." "This isn't a disagreement," I shot back. "It's the end of a joke." I reached down, unplugged my laptop, grabbed my notebook, and tucked my badge in my pocket. "And just so we're clear, those clients you keep calling clutter, they were the only reason this place was holding together." I turned and walked out before she could answer. Didn't slam the door, didn't look back, but every single person in that room heard it. Loud, final, real. I wasn't theirs anymore. 3 days into my new role at Marwood, I was still setting up my laptop when the first call came in. Matt Gerber, Iron Bridge Equipment. "Hey," he said, voice low but steady. "Heard you moved on. That true?" "Yeah," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Started Monday." He didn't hesitate. "What are you guys offering?" By the end of the call, we had a follow-up set for Thursday. Full account review, scope, needs, timelines. He was ready to move. No pitch, no sales deck. He just wanted to keep working with someone who didn't treat him like a damn invoice. The next day, my phone rang again. Julie Tadden, Northwell Foods. "I knew it," she said before I even said hello. "I told my assistant you were too quiet. What's your new place called?" I gave her the name. She wrote it down like she was already filling out the vendor switch. "I'll shoot you over our latest numbers," she said. "I'd rather keep things personal. You made us feel like more than freight." The switch was happening in real time. All the names that Trina once rolled her eyes at, the clingy clients, the not scalable ones, they were jumping ship, and fast. I didn't gloat, I didn't post about it, but word was spreading. The floodgates had opened. Meanwhile, I started hearing whispers from inside South Cross. One of my old teammates, Alex, texted me a screenshot of a Slack thread. Trina was panicking. "Client volume is down. Re-engagement plan needed. Where's the Gerber renewal? Why hasn't Tadden answered this week's check-in?" She was scrambling, trying to run triage on the exact people she said didn't matter. Scripts, bulk email blasts. She even started calling clients herself, but they weren't biting. Matt forwarded me one of her follow-ups. It was brutal. "Hi, Matt. Just checking in to see if you need any assistance. I'd love to hear how things are going with your family." You could practically smell the desperation through the screen. He texted me right after. "She remembered I have a family, but forgot my daughter's name. Said, 'Your son,' twice. I have 2 girls. By the second week, 3 more accounts came over without me lifting a finger. These weren't small players. These were legacy clients, contracts worth 6 figures annually. The irony? Every single one of them had been flagged high risk by South Cross the year before. Trina had labeled them resource drains. And now they were my foundation. We weren't even fully staffed yet. I was building the team from scratch, vetting candidates, setting up systems. But the clients didn't care. They said the same thing over and over. "We'll wait. Just tell us where to send the POS back at South Cross." The leaks kept growing. My inbox started filling with resumes, former coworkers asking if we were hiring. Some begged me not to say their names. They were still working under Trina, trying to hold it together. But it was already coming apart. She'd spent a year mocking my approach, dismissing loyalty. Now she was drowning in the mess she'd ignored, and I wasn't even pushing. I was just answering the damn phone. By week 5, I started hearing that Trina was pointing fingers. A buddy still inside messaged me late one night. "She's saying you're poaching clients." Full witch hunt mode. I didn't panic. I hadn't reached out to a single person. The calls came to me, and every one of those clients had a shared story. After I left, they gave her a shot. They really tried, but Trina's version of relationship management was a half-hearted apology and a templated follow-up. I saw one of her emails forwarded from a client. "We value your business and understand you're undergoing change. Let's reconnect and realign." It read like it came out of a chatbot. She even started scripting small talk. Clients told me she'd say things like, "How is your personal life?" Like she was reading from a broken teleprompter. It didn't build trust. It creeped people out. 8 weeks in, South Cross had lost over 60% of its client revenue. I wasn't tracking it on purpose, but word spreads fast in logistics. Carrier contracts stalled. Warehousing partners backed out. Even their best fulfillment vendors started shopping new accounts. Layoffs got announced internally the same day I signed 2 new clients. Someone posted about it on LinkedIn. Company in transition, seeking new direction. Translation: fire's already halfway through the building. That's when Marty Beringer called me. He didn't start with small talk. "I won't lie," he said. "We're in a tight spot. You've clearly built something sustainable. Would you consider partnering with us? Maybe come back in a leadership role?" I paused. Let the silence stretch long enough to hear the weight in his voice. "You're talking about head of client strategy?" I asked. "Something like that. You'd have control. Fix what's broken." I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. It was pouring rain, same as the day Trina nuked my work in front of the team. "I'm good where I am, Marty," I said, "but I appreciate the call." He didn't argue, just said, "Understood," and hung up. I didn't have to say "I told you so." He already knew. Trina didn't survive the next round of cuts. She was out by the end of that quarter. No public announcement, no farewell message, just gone. One day she was CCing the team on micromanaged directives, and the next, her name disappeared from the org chart. Word was she tried to spin the loss of clients as an external market shift. Said relationship turnover was a normal part of growth. The board didn't buy it. I got another text from Alex a few days later. She cleared out her desk in silence. Wouldn't even make eye contact. I didn't celebrate. Didn't say anything out loud, but deep down, it landed. This woman had tried to erase me, humiliate me, dismiss everything I'd built as fluff. And in the end, she got buried by her own blind spots. It wasn't just karma, it was clarity, cold and clean. By the end of the 6th month, I had my name on the door. Partner. I didn't beg for it, didn't angle or campaign. The numbers made the case for me. My division had just closed the firm's highest grossing quarter to date. Most of the revenue came from people South Cross couldn't hold on to. Clients who used to be high maintenance, unscalable, or, as Trina once put it, a waste of callback time. Now they were the foundation of something real. I'd built the whole damn engine off relationships no one else thought mattered, and I still hadn't made a single cold call. The damage was already done. Her playbook had been exposed. No context, no connection, just numbers and pressure. Maybe that worked in 2003. But now, clients were smarter, competition was sharper. Loyalty came down to who gave a damn. And nobody cared less than she did. I didn't pile on. I didn't need to. Her reputation followed her in all the ways she'd never believed mattered. My team? We were already 10 steps ahead. No scripts, no stiff check-ins, just sharp dialed-in reps who listened first and solved second. The funny thing is, I never set out to be some industry case study. I just didn't want to feel like a disposable number anymore. And in fixing that for myself, I fixed it for a lot of other people too. Trina never saw it coming. She thought relationships were fluff. Turns out they were the core. It's been just over 2 years. I run the client success arm at one of the fastest growing logistics consultancies in the country. We have doubled headcount, tripled our client base, and kept churn below 3%. Not because we're faster or cheaper, but because we listen. We don't measure calls closed per hour. We track satisfaction, referrals, real conversations. When someone calls us, they get a human. No scripts, no timer ticking down the second they speak. And, yeah, we still ask about the dog, the daughter's soccer game, the dad who passed last fall. Because people remember that. One client collects vinyl, another brews his own beer. One sends me photos of his golden retriever every Christmas. That stuff's not extra, it's the core. They stick around because they feel seen, valued, not managed. That's what Trina never got. She thought she was deleting some feel-good experiment, like I'd scribbled it in crayon during break time. But what she really deleted was the glue, the entire foundation holding her client base together. And when it all crumbled, she blamed everything but herself. I didn't destroy her career. She did that all on her own, one ignored call and lifeless follow-up at a time. Death by indifference. My revenge? It wasn't shouting, wasn't suing or flaming her on social. I never went scorched earth. I just succeeded, loudly, visibly, without her. Every team call I lead, every client win, every time I get pulled into a strategy session with senior partners, I know exactly how I got here. And it damn sure wasn't luck. The industry's caught up now. You want to keep a client in 2025, you don't out-discount the competition. You out-care them. You show up, follow through, and treat people like they're more than a line item. Connection isn't optional anymore. It's expected. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's simple. Some people don't understand your value until they try to replace you. Trina tried, she failed. And the best part, every time the phone rings with a new referral, every time a legacy client tells us they're moving their business our way, every time I hear, we just wanted someone who actually gives a damn, I don't have to say a word. I just take the call, because I didn't win by fighting. I won by lasting.